Meredith, I remembered what episode number it was and the title, so...
It's great. You're doing amazing.
I seriously know all of the first season. Like, I can just list them all off. It's my new talent.
My name is KJ, and you're listening to the Supernatural Opinions podcast, where some things in this world are supernatural. My pronouns are she, they, and this is the podcast where I talk to my fellow Supernatural fans about Supernatural, and we share our Supernatural opinions.
Today we're recapping Season 1, Episode 16, Shadow, which originally aired on February 27th, 2006, and here to help me do that are my guests of the week. We have Meredith, and Meredith, would you also like to introduce our other guests of the week?
Awesome. So I'm Meredith, as you probably know. My pronouns are she and her. Also, I actually watched Ghostbusters, so people can stop teasing me about that now. And our other guest is my older sister, Audrey. Audrey, would you like to tell us about your whatever?
Hi, my name's Audrey. My pronouns are she and her. And yeah, I'm excited to be here. It's obviously my first podcast ever, actually. So this is really cool.
Yay! I'm so excited that you're here. It's so great to have siblings that watch a show so much about siblings.
Every place we go, we end up like swamping everyone with just us, like workplaces. It's great.
This week's episode will contain spoilers for this episode and may reference previous episodes, but probably won't contain spoilers for later episodes of Supernatural. And this week's episode is titled Shadow, and that's a reference to our monster of the week, the Deva, which is a type of demon or demonic creature of shadows and darkness. And shadows and darkness are obviously also a major horror trope. And there's lots of movies with killer shadows. I did not look up all of the different ones. Don't know if there was a specific reference in there, but that's the title.
Probably. I don't know. The only other place I've seen anything similar to this is the movie version of Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children.
Right. I forgot about that movie until you mentioned it, but now I'm having a full recovered memory of it.
And I'm just going to stop it right there because I have a lot of thoughts about that movie, and this is not the place or time for them.
Yeah, this is not the time to trip that.
Yeah. This week's episode was written by Eric Kripke and directed by Kim Manners. It's going to be a short segment this week because we talk about Eric Kripke all the time. He created Supernatural and has written several episodes, and this episode steers us into the main plot quite a bit as we head into the final quarter of the season, so it makes sense that he is here with a sole writing credit. And then Kim Manners, of course, we've seen his work before. He's directed Dead in the Water, Bugs, and Scarecrow already just this season, so we're familiar.
Yes, and as an X-Files fan, I am definitely familiar with Mr. Manners.
Yeah, X-Files and Supernatural were his two, really, really big projects.
Yes, he knew quality.
And let's just get ready to the recap, because we have lots of notes all around this week. After a recap reminds us that Sam and Dean have a lot of unresolved tensions surrounding their missing father, and that Meg killed Shady Van Guy number 2 in Scarecrow. We are in Chicago, Illinois, and it is nighttime.
So yeah.
Our opening scene victim is named Meredith. Meredith, how weird was that experience for you?
Oh gosh, I was rewatching this several months ago, and I was living with my parents at the time because of the pandemic, and I was sitting on the top bunk of a bunk bed with my sister sleeping below me. Other sister, not this one. And it was the middle of the night, and it was dark all around, and I was just watching this, and suddenly this creepy voice is whispering, Meredith! And I just started laughing, and I couldn't stop, and I was just like, could you just shut up? I feel like someone is calling me downstairs at 2 a.m. to do chores.
Yeah, it's a weird experience when characters have the same name as you.
Yeah, especially with me, because no one ever has my name, and I don't watch Grey's Anatomy, so I'm not used to it.
There's a Grey's Anatomy reference in this episode that we will get to, but...
Oh, good, because I didn't notice it.
Yeah, I was about to say, I don't know if you remember, it was an episode where wishes were coming true, and the little girl with the teddy bear is also named Audrey, and that was really weird.
No one's ever forgetting that episode ever.
At least you didn't die. I got to hear them say my name for the rest of the episode, so I'm not complaining.
Yeah, we learned that Meredith's name is Meredith because she's walking home and her music cuts out and she's listening to Headache by Boo Boo Davis in the streaming version, but I looked up what she was listening to on the actual version and the song was You Got Your Hooks in Me by Little Charlie and the Nightcats. I actually like the switch. I actually prefer Headache to You Got Your Hooks in Me.
I'm sorry, but the title is very appropriate.
And she's walking home and I think this is an iPod classic based on how boxy it is. I'm pretty sure she's listening to an iPod classic.
My subtitle said she was listening to the radio, and I was like, do people still do that?
People do, but I'm pretty sure this was an iPod classic. I looked up various MP3 players that were popular in 2005 to see if I could find one, and I'm pretty sure that's what it was.
I'll believe you.
Here at Supernatural Opinions, we get really into our research.
Sometimes this is why I have long notes this week. But yeah, then we hear the very scary whispering of her name, and like the wind picks up, and she sees like shadows moving in like humanoid shape, so she starts running home. She makes it home, and I'm like hopeful. She rearms her alarm system. She breathes a sigh of relief. Unfortunately, that's a little too soon. She really jumped the gun on that. But she checks her
Little
voice.
did she know.
Yeah, she did not know what was gonna be coming for her. I mean, how could you? You made it home, you locked your doors, you should be safe. But she's checking her voicemail and she's got a message from Kristen looking for the tea and another message from Derek. And I had to stop for a minute because this was early 2006 and Grey's Anatomy had a very wildly successful first season in early 2005. Starring Ellen Pompeo as Meredith Grey and her love interest, Patrick Dempsey's McDreamy, Derek Shepherd.
Oh, I didn't notice that. Okay.
This guy even sounds a little Patrick Dempsey-like when he says, hey, Meredith, and then the rest of the message, he doesn't sound like her, but just the way he says, hey, sounds a little bit Patrick Dempsey-like. They were very clearly going for a reference. Honestly, amazing. The show's writers aren't afraid to make references like that, and I love this. Like, that was a totally random reference to, like...
I know there's a later episode where they did the same thing with Twilight, like the vampire was called Robert and the human girl was called Kristen and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Gosh,
they love doing stuff like that, and I love when they do stuff like that. It's one of my favorite things.
We'll have to get you in that episode, but when we cover that episode. We can talk all about your history with Twilight.
Oh dear, there's a rabbit hole.
Anyway, Derek says that there's someone who wants to meet Meredith and to call him back to find out who, but she's never going to find out who. And then there's another message from someone who might be Kristen again, or might be someone else, who mentions that Meredith had her heart ripped out by a guy, figuratively, but she wants to set her up with someone new. Unfortunately, Meredith has her heart ripped out literally in the next, moment.
By a shadow with,
it's
Freddy
a very cool
claws.
shot.
It
Shout
is
out
a cool
to Mr.
shot.
Manners on this one because it's a shot of the wall and we see Meredith's shadow on the wall and then we see this shadow behind her rip out her heart from behind, but we just see the shadows on the wall and then her blood spattering. It's just excellent.
Yes.
It's the title card and then it's a week later and Sam and Dean are rolling into town to investigate and Sam is reading a newspaper article about Meredith's death, which is the second victim in as many months attributed to the stealth killer, which is an excellent serial killer name. It's a shame that they wasted it on a not actual serial killer. Also, this isn't enough victims for it to be a serial killer, so really just
Stealth.
assigning cool serial killer names for no reason. Also, we should stop doing that.
So stealthy, you don't even see the other victims yet.
Both the boys are wearing coveralls which have their actual names on them.
But, okay.
Because when you're brazen, you're brazen.
Yeah, Sam says Sam's on it and Dean says Dean on it because, covers.
They cover all.
They're posing as technicians for this security company, PE Alarm System, or Alarm Security, and Dean is complaining that he and John didn't need stupid costumes and mentions that Sam was in a production of Our Town when he was in high school and says that Sam was good and it was cute, as though Sam peaked there and didn't go to Stanford pre-law.
And as though Jensen Ackles wasn't also in musical theater.
I'm just glad that Sam was in one place long enough to be involved in a drama production of any kind.
Yes.
That means that he was somewhere for a few weeks at least.
Oh yes, doing school plays in high school is a commitment, but it's also really fun.
And Dean complains about the outfits costing money, and Sam asks whose money, and Dean says theirs. Does Sam think that credit card fraud is easy? And, as someone whose day job involves dealing with victims of fraud, I don't appreciate how the Winchesters make money. Not a fan.
Oh dear.
But the landlady lets them into Meredith's apartment, and I immediately noticed that the chain was broken, even though the deadbolt seemed fine, and that seemed weird to me. But it's explained later that they cut the chain when they were discovering her body, so.
And I liked what the landlady said to them, like, when she was letting them in, like, your alarm is about as useful as boobs on a man.
I mean, she's got a point.
Yeah, it did not help poor Meredith at all.
Yeah, no.
The scene is still very bloody. They've not brought in the crime scene cleanup people.
Yeah, I noticed that. Like, wouldn't they?
It also took a couple of days before her work called her landlady for someone to go find her body, so that's unfortunate.
Sounds like a lovely workplace.
Especially considering people were calling looking for her on the day that she went missing.
Yeah.
People were already wondering where she was before she was even missing. Like, where did those friends go? Why weren't they more concerned?
Seriously.
But the alarm and the locks were both still on. There was no signs of a break-in or a struggle. Everything was in perfect condition except for Meredith, who was, quote, all over in pieces.
I really hate it when I fall to pieces. It's just so embarrassing, so messy.
Yeah, Meredith, get it together.
I don't want to.
Sam apparently was feeling really, really vindicated. This was his case and his find, so he's feeling really glad that this is looking like a case. And Dean spoke to an officer, Amy, who he slept with, but also who blabbed a lot.
Amy!
About the fact that, yeah, I know, Amy should lose her job. She ends up being really useful to us, but she should not be keeping her job after this. But we don't actually ever see her, so it's fine. I guess she's safe. No one's gonna find out that she blabbed. But apparently Meredith's heart was missing, so she didn't just get it ripped out, it was just straight up gone.
I never had one.
Dean suggests that maybe the landlady wasn't far off when she said it looked like an animal attack. Missing heart, werewolf, which is I think the first time we've mentioned that werewolves eat hearts in the supernatural universe.
Yes, I agree.
But Sam is very quick to tell us that it's not a full moon and there's just no trace of any kind of creature. So he is going with spirit, and Dean makes a very unconvinced sound. And then he's working on a hunch, and so he asks for masking tape, which is not what he gets in the next moment.
That didn't look like masking tape.
It looks like some sort of electrical tape. It's black. It's not masking tape. It's so weird that he would say masking tape specifically and not just tape, and then not get masking tape.
I was just thinking, like, what he wanted the tape for, like, mapping out that pattern on the floor. I think it's very convenient that he can pick out that pattern, despite the fact he didn't even use the blood spots, all the blood spots.
Oh.
We know that John has an uncanny ability to spot patterns, so...
Maybe
that's what it is.
Yeah, maybe Dean's
very
got
convenient.
some sort of...
Yes.
Supernatural ability to find patterns.
Anyway, Dean is playing connect the dots with the blood.
It's just a fun and cute activity to do with your brother.
And Audrey is correct. He doesn't use all of the spots, so he just like picks out this pattern at random and gets it like perfectly correct. It's like a what was that graph in math? I know, Meredith, I know you're the wrong person to ask about math.
So is Audrey, sadly.
But in math, like the one where you just like you have like a scatter plot, but then you like generalize. You know, I feel like that's what Dean's doing.
Oh, okay.
He's like finding like the mean. I don't know.
Sure.
Math people are cringing.
Yeah, sorry. I went into history and art, like...
I just didn't care.
Yeah. Anyway, it's a symbol that neither of the boys have seen before. So then Dean hits a bar to go get some intel, and Sam was somewhere else, but he shows up with John's journal and the same newspaper article, and he asks Dean to think with his upstairs brain, and Dean informs him everyone at the bar knew Meredith because she worked there, they liked her, and she was normal.
I thought it was funny when he asked Sam to, or when Sam asked him to think with his upstairs brain, he said, huh?
Wait, what? Why?
Why would I do that?
The bartender's cute, Sammy.
Basically, the only weird thing about Meredith is that she's dead. She was living a perfectly fine life before that.
She was living and now she's not. How strange is that?
Interesting.
Doesn't seem like a prime candidate to be a murder victim, so...
Well, you never know. Maybe she was the one running credit card scams.
Maybe.
And she picked the wrong credit card.
And if that happened, I would watch a movie about her.
Yeah, literally. Sam didn't find the symbol in their dad's journal or anywhere else, but he just has it handy so we can remember that it exists.
Fun fact, neither did I. Get into that later.
Sam has another newspaper clipping about the first victim, because Meredith was the second victim, and the first victim was Ben's